This video is gonna be exactly 20 minutes, like 19 minutes and some minutes, but left off where Devin thought he was gonna get he's gonna get invited to supper, but didn't by Annie. But anyway, I stood there watching her hurry back down the boardwalk to the green Victorian, the one I was probably never going to see the inside of, thanks to my big mouth. But the idea of taking Mike through Joyland has seemed so right. During the summer, we had groups of kids with all sorts of problems and disabilities. Crippled kids, blind kids, cancer kids, kids who were mentally challenged. What we called retarded back in the unenlightened 70s. It wasn't as though I expected to stick Mike in the front car of the delirium shaker and then blast him off. Even if the shaker hadn't been buttoned up for the winter, I'm not a total idiot. But the merry-go-round was still operational, and surely he could ride that. Ditto the train that ran through the Wiggle Waggle village. I was sure Fred Dean wouldn't mind touring the kid through Mysterio's Mirror Mansion either. But no, but no, no, but no, no. He was her delicate hot house flower, and she intended to keep it that way. The thing with the kite had just been an aberration, and that apology a bitter pill she felt she had to swallow. Still, I couldn't help admiring how quick and lithe she was, moving with the grace her son would never know. I watched her bare legs under the hem of her skirt and thought about Wendy Keegan, not at all. I had the weekend free, and you know what happened? I guess I guess the idea that and you know what happened? I guess the idea that it always rains on the weekends must be an illusion, but it sure doesn't seem like one. Ask any working stiff whoever planned to go camping or fishing on his days off. Well, there was always Tolkien. I was sitting in my chair by the window on Saturday afternoon, moving ever deeper into the mountains of Mordor with Frodo and Sam, when Mrs. Shaplaw knocked on the door and asked if I'd like to come down to the parlor and play Scrabble with her and Tina Ackley. I'm not at all crazy about Scrabble. Having suffered many humiliations at the hands of my aunts, Tansy and Naomi, who each have a huge mental vocabulary of what I still think of a Scrabble of what I still think of as Scrabble shit words, stuff like suck, trank, and boots, and Indian ghosts, should you wonder. Nevertheless, I said I'd love to play Miss Shaplaw. I love to play. Miss Shaplaw is my landlady after all, and diplomacy takes many forms. On our way downstairs, she confided, "We're helping Tina bone up. She's quite the Scrabble sharp. She's entered in some sort of tournament in Atlantic City next weekend. I believe there is a cash prize." It didn't take long, maybe 4 turns to discover that our resident librarian could have given my aunts all the game they could handle and more. By the time Miss Ackley laid down mobility, by the time Miss Ackley laid down nobility with the apologetic smile of all Scrabble sharks seem to have, I think they must practice it in front of their mirrors. Emelina Shaplaw was 80 pounds behind. As for me, well, never mind. I don't suppose either of you know anything about Annie and Mike Ross, do you? I asked during a break in the action. Both women seemed to feel a need to study the board of a long time before laying down so much as a single tile. They live on Beach Row in the big green Victorian. Miss Ackley paused with her hand still inside the little brown bag of letters. Her eyes were big, and her thick lenses made them even bigger. Have you met them? Uh-huh. They were trying to fly a kite. Well, she was, and I helped out a little. They're very nice. I just wondered. I just wondered. The two of them all alone in that big house and him pretty sick. The look they exchanged was pure incredulity, and I started to wish I hadn't raised the subject. Incredulity, that's a cool word. The state of being unwilling or unable to believe something. Incredulity.
Incredulity.
Nice. Incredulity. He stared down the street and it's like disbelief. Bro, why are you looking at him with why are you looking at her with incredulity? Stop looking at her with incredulity. Hey, what's that look? Hey, it's giving off incredulity. It's giving off incredulity. It's like you don't believe me or something. So nice. And I started to wish I hadn't raised the subject. She talks to you? Miss Shopwell asked. The ice queen actually talks to you? Not only talked to me, but gave me a fruit smoothie, thanked me, even apologized to me. But I said none of that. Not because Annie really had iced up when I presumed too much, but because to do so would have seemed disloyal somehow. Well, a little. I got the kite up for them, that's all. I turned the board. It was Tina's, the pro kind with its own little built-in spindle. Come on, Mrs. S, your turn. Maybe you will even make a word that's in my puny vocabulary. Given the correct positioning, a punny can be worth 70 points. Tina Ackley said, even more if a Y word is connected to pun. Miss Shoplaw ignored both the board and the advice. You know who her father is? Of course. Can't say I do. Although I did know she was on the outs with him in big time. Buddy Ross, as in the Buddy Ross Hour of Power. Ring any bells? It did, vaguely. I thought I might have heard some preacher named Ross on the radio in the costume shop. It kind of makes sense. During one of my quick change transformations into Howie, Dottie Lassen had asked me, pretty much out of a clear blue sky, if I had found Jesus. My first impulse had been to tell her that I didn't know he was lost, but I restrained it. One of those Bible shouters, right? next to Oral Roberts and that Jimmy Swagger fellow. He's just about the biggest of them, Mrs. S said. He broadcasts from this gigantic church, God's Citadel, he calls it, in Atlanta. In Atlanta, his radio his radio show goes out all over the country, and now he's getting more and more into TV. I don't know if the stations give him the time free or if he has to buy it. I'm not sure he can afford it, especially late at night. That's when the old folks are up with their aches and pains. His shows are half miracle healings and half pleas for more love or offerings. Guess he didn't have any luck healing his grandson. I said, whoa. Tina withdrew her hand from the letter bag with nothing in it. She had forgotten about Scrabble for the first time being, which was a good thing for her hapless victims. Her eyes were sparkling. You don't know any of this story, do you? Ordinarily, I don't believe in gossip, but she dropped her voice to a confidential tone pitched just above a whisper. But since you've met them, I could tell you. Yes, please, I said. I thought one of my questions, how Annie and Mike came to be living in a huge house on one of North Carolina's ritziest beaches, had already been answered. It was Grandpa Buddy's summer retreat, bought and paid for bought and paid for with love offerings. He's got two sons, Tina said. They're both high in his church, deacons or assistant pastors. I don't know what they call them exactly, but because I don't go for that holy roly stuff. The daughter, though, she was different. A sports type. Horseback riding, tennis, archery, they're hunting with their father. Quite a bit of competition shooting. All that got in the papers after her trouble started. Now the Camp Perry shirt made sense. Around the time she turned 18, it all went to hell quite literally as he saw it. She went to what they call a secular human humanist college, and by all accounts, she was quite the wild child, giving up the shooting competitions and tennis tournaments was one thing. Giving up the church going for parties and liquor and men was quite another. Also, Tina lowered her voice. Pot, pot smoking. Gosh, I said, not that. Miss Shopwell gave me a look, but Tina didn't notice. Yes, that. She got into the newspapers too, those tabloids, because she was pretty and rich, but mostly because of her father and being fallen away. That's what they call it. She was a scandal to that church of his, wearing mini skirts and going braless and all. Well, you know what those fundamentalists preach is straight out of the Old Testament. All that about the righteous being rewarded and sinners being punished even into onto the seventh generation. And she did more than hit the party circuit down there in Greenwich Village. Tina's eyes were now so huge they looked on the verge of tumbling from their sockets and rolling down her cheeks. She quit the NRA and joined the American Atheist Society. Ah, and did that get in the papers? Did it ever? Then she got pregnant. No surprise there. And when the baby turned out to have some sort of problem, cerebral, cerebral, cerebral palsy, cerebral, cerebral cerebropathy, I think, muscular dystrophy, whatever it is. Her father was asked about it on one of his crusade things. And do you know what he said? I shook my head, but I thought I could make a pretty good guess. He said that God punishes the unbeliever and the sinner. He said his daughter was no different, and maybe her son's affliction would bring her back to God. I don't think it's happened yet, I said. I was thinking of the Jesus kite. I can't understand why people use religion to hurt each other when there's already so much pain in the world. Miss Shaplaw said, religion is supposed to comfort. He's just a self-righteous old prig, Tina said. No matter how many men she might have been with or how many joints of pot she might have smoked, she's still his daughter, and the child is still his grandson. I've seen that boy in town once or twice, either in a wheelchair or tottering along in those cruel braces he has to wear if he wants to walk. He seems like a perfectly nice boy, and she was sober, also wearing a bra. She paused for further recollection. I think her father might change, Miss Shoplaw said, but I doubt it. Young women and young men grow up, but old women and old men just grow older and sure they've got the right on their side, especially if they know scripture. I remember something my mother used to say. The devil can quote scripture, and in a pleasing voice, Miss Shoplaw agreed moodily. Then she brightened. Still, if the Reverend Ross is letting them use his place on the beach road, maybe he's willing to let bygones be bygones. It might have crossed his mind by now that she was only a young girl, maybe not even old enough to vote. Dev, isn't it your turn? It was. I made tear. It netted me 4 points. My drubbing wasn't merciful, but once Tina actually really got rocking, it was relatively quick. What does a drubbing mean? Drubbing is severe thorough defeat. I returned to my room, sat in my chair by the window, and tried to rejoin Frodo and Sam on the road to Mount Doom. I couldn't do it. I closed the book and stared out through the rain wavery glass at the empty beach and the gray ocean beyond. It was a lonely prospect, and at times like that, my thoughts had a way of turning back to Wendy, wondering where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. Thinking about her smile, the way her hair fell against her cheek, the soft rise of her breast, and one of her seemingly endless supply of cardigans, sweaters. Not today. Instead of Wendy, I found myself thinking of Annie Ross and realizing I developed a small but powerful crush on her. The fact that nothing could come of it. She had to be 10 years older than me, maybe 12, only seemed to make things worse. Or maybe, I mean better, because unre- unrequited love does, does have its attractions for young men. Mrs. S has suggested that Annie's holier than thou